Hello, Tim from Fairplay, now on the 8th of July 2024. So I haven't made any videos or put any videos up over the last few days. I'm sure you've seen plenty of other people commenting on the general election and what happened in the general election. I'm going to do the same here, but bear with me. I know you're probably getting sick and tired of these sort of videos, but I'm hopefully going to be bringing you a bit more value than what some people might have done, because I've been crunching some numbers. I've kind of waited for the dust to settle a little bit to see what all the facts and figures and numbers are from this most recent general election, and I thought I'd give you some of those and some of my observations. So I'm going to be doing that in a second, but I think some of the things will you'll find frankly quite shocking, and the conclusion I'm going to draw really is that you don't need to fear this incoming Labour government, because frankly I don't think they've got any legitimate right to be ruling us. So I'll be coming on to that. I'll be coming on to why I think that. But what I'm going to do is, because I talked about this in my newsletter, my email newsletter, which goes out at 6 o'clock every Sunday evening. So if you don't know about that, I'll leave a link in the description box below so you can subscribe to it and get future issues. But what I was saying in yesterday's one is basically I'm going to read out what I wrote, at least the first part of it. So we had our general election here in the UK on Thursday, and the results are in. Predictably, Labour won with a large majority in terms of parliamentary seats. That's the depressing news. No doubt, new Prime Minister Keir Starmer and his Labour government thinks this gives them a legitimate mandate to rule the country however they wish for the next 5 years. But I don't think they have nearly the legitimacy they think they have. Here's why. First of all, voter turnout on Thursday was the lowest in decades. I think it was actually just 57% of all eligible voters actually turned out on Thursday, and those who didn't actually include me and my wife. And and the reason for it is we're just so disenchanted with the system, basically. Anyway, let's carry on. This means that in terms of actual votes, Labour got 9.7 million compared to 10.3 million votes that they got in 2019. So how does that work then? Because in 2019, Labour suffered a massive landslide defeat, and this time round, they got their massive landslide victory, even though they got about 500,000 votes less this time round than they did in 2019. So like I say, how on earth does that work? Just absolutely insane. Anyway, their vote share figures paints an equally unimpressive picture. They got 33.8% of all votes cast, which is just a small increase on what they got in 2019, which was 32.2%. But the most shocking figure is the number of votes Labour received compared to the total number of eligible voters here in the UK. This figure includes both those who voted on Thursday and those who didn't bother, and that total amount of eligible voters is 46.6 million people. That's actually from the latest National Office of National Statistics figures, which was December 2023, so about 6 months ago, so pretty much current. So Labour's 9.7 million share of that represents something like, I think I've done the maths correctly, something like 20 to 21% of all of those entitled to vote. But if you put that another way, that means a whopping 79% of the UK did not vote for this new Labour government. That's hardly the mandate to govern that their huge parliamentary majority would suggest. If 4 out of 5 UK people didn't ask for a Labour government, can we really say they have a legitimate right to impose their diktats upon us? But that's not all. It gets even more crazy. Nigel Farage's Reform Party got 14% of the vote, but only won 4 seats, whilst the Liberal Democrats had 12% of the vote, and they now have 71 seats. So what does this mean, these figures? Well, first of all, the low turnout means more people than ever have no faith in the system. And that includes me, my wife, Lorraine, many more millions of people up and down the country, and maybe you as well. But more importantly, the results have shown in very stark relief to millions of people who perhaps didn't realise it previously just how screwed up our electoral system is. I mean, how can a party with just 21% of overall support from the country get a landslide election victory? And how can one party get 14% of the vote and just get 4 seats, whilst another can get over 70 seats with 2% less of the vote? These are questions being asked up and down the country right now, I'm sure. And lots of people have just woken up to the fact that our system is rotten to the core. A huge spotlight's been shone on this. The whole rotten thing just can't be hidden anymore. And it's all in plain sight, and people up and down the country are frankly angry about it, including me really. Never has it been more obvious that a government has no right to rule us. I can hear people's response to what I'm saying here. Tim, that's the system we live in, and we just have to accept it and get on with it, mate. Really? You're telling me that we have to put up with a system that gives a party and its leader unfettered control over the country when they only got 21% of everyone eligible to vote? You really think that's acceptable? You really think that's okay? Because I certainly don't. But I do think there's 1 or 2 glimmers of hope actually, despite all of this. First of all, the Labour Party, I saw another commenter talking about this actually. The Labour Party aren't the cohesive unit it appears to be currently. There's deep divisions within it, and I think many in the party won't be letting Starmer have it all his own way, especially as we get a few months and years into this parliamentary term. Second, the figures I've highlighted are becoming common knowledge, and many up and down the country will be questioning Labour's right to rule and the validity of our electoral system. And it's all in plain sight now, and far from having a free rein, I think Starmer's going to have to tread very carefully. More people than ever are now awake to the electoral scam, the whole scam where you've really only got 2 real choices of governing parties. That's been really shown up for what it is in this election, hasn't it? And these people who have just woken up to this nonsense, frankly, are going to want to see change. So whilst this election result might not be a good thing for many people up and down the country, certainly not for us freedom-loving types, I think there is a little bit of hope there. More people than ever have been woken up to just how rotten and ridiculous our system really is. So I'm just going to finish with a couple of more heartening bits of election news, which I haven't really seen many other people talk about, to be honest with you. First of all, I'm pleased to see the SNP up there in Scotland have got an absolute hammering. They're down from about 50 seats down to about 9 seats, so they didn't even get into double figures, so they're now just a minor party again up there. Now I'm not going to comment on the whole independence thing, that's really none of my business, and not what I'm going to be talking about here, but as we all know, whether you're in Scotland or not, we know just how draconian and horrible the SNP government up there were during the Lurgy. They've just brought in these absolutely horrible, massively draconian sort of, hate speech laws, etc. And you know, the SNP really is a dreadful party, and it looks like people up there north of the border are aware of this now, and they gave the SNP an absolute hammering, and they deserve it, frankly. And another person who got a hammering and thoroughly deserves it, now I've talked about this guy a few times before in these videos on this channel, and that's the guy who used to be the Conservative MP for the Bournemouth area, Tobias Ellwood. Now he is just a dreadful character. He's somehow linked or leads the 77th Brigade, or is in charge of that somehow, or at least linked to it deeply, or he was. But he's also on record for, first of all, coming out with the disgusting thing that he thought that people who hadn't had that should be held down in the streets and forcibly jabbed. He's on record for saying that, and he's also on the record as saying, you know, if it takes, you know, the deployment and use of nuclear weapons to, you know, for Ukraine to win, then, you know, that's acceptable as far as he's concerned. So the man's clearly off his rocker. Totally unfit for public office, and yeah, I'm just glad to see that he's been booted out, and this is one Labour victory that I am celebrating, because there's now a Labour person in that seat. Tobias Ellwood is out on his ear, and good riddance, that's all I can say, good riddance to Ellwood and his kind of frankly nutty views. And I'm just hoping that the Labour person doesn't turn out to be equally as big a nut. Who knows? I suppose time will tell on that. But anyway, yeah, better late than never. So I don't know what you think about some of those facts and figures I've come out with. Some of them are quite shocking, but I think the takeaway from this video is because they have only got 21% of all eligible voters supporting them, I think that paints a very different figure from the amount of seats that they've won, and I think it proves that the Labour government, this new Labour government, literally hasn't got any kind of legitimate right to rule over us. If they want to spend the next 5 years purely in an admin role, just running the country and keeping things ticking over, that's fair enough, but I don't think it gives them any right whatsoever to start bringing in any kind of new policies or laws, certainly not any controversial ones anyway. So with that observation, or set of observations, I'm going to leave it, and I'll be back soon. Tim from Fair Play Now, thanks for watching.